Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to continue my coaching video series where I kind of talk about the pros and cons about attributes of different coaches. Last episode I talked about how some of the best athletes sometimes make not the best coaches, and my points from that video were mostly centered around the fact that we have this bias towards gifted athletes, and there's at least a significant amount of time where that strength comes from genetics, and possibly these athletes haven't had to put as much thought into their training or programming as you would first think by looking at their either physique or numbers that they put up on the platform or in the gym. Today, I want to take the other side to that and kind of argue why the strongest athletes can make some of the best coaches. So, kind of at the root of this question, what makes a good coach or not? Usually, this is going to have to do with the person's knowledge base behind how to progress in the gym. So, that could be, knowing what kind of exercises to pick for an individual based on different weaknesses, knowing how to properly progress the weights once you've picked those exercises, knowing when to put a deload in there and pivot, timing and percentages. All of those things go into being a good coach, as well as, that social and emotional aspect, being able to communicate with the athlete. Now, in the last episode, I talked about how sometimes the top athletes, they may not have some of the attributes that you think they do, because some of that progression comes from genetics rather than an intelligent approach to their lifting. But there is one thing that you can almost guarantee all good athletes, especially powerlifters who have been around for a long time, are going to have, and that's going to be time in the gym. So whether they're outwardly thinking about what they're doing and being intentional about it or not, there is something to be said about gym experience. And it's like that bro philosophy, right? Where it's the individual might not have any science to back it up, but they just happen to know that it works for them. And chances are, if you've had a long career in the gym, then you've tried a lot of things and probably failed with a lot of things, as well as succeeded, especially if you've become really strong. So whenever you're talking about who's going to make the best coach, at least with these more advanced athletes, you're guaranteeing that they have at least some time under their belt. Now, what's actually done with that time and how intelligent that time was used is kind of a whole other argument. And I'm not trying to say that just because you're in the gym for a long time means that you're doing something right. But usually if you're advanced and in the gym for a long time and you're still around, not injured, and very strong, you probably have some general ideas or tips that would be of value to pass on in the gym. And that's kind of partially why I made this YouTube channel with over 10 years of competitive experience at this point, and well beyond that of just like time in the gym consistently. I feel like I can provide that kind of feedback to you all, and maybe that's something that you can take away from it. I want to leave it for another video where I'll go in depth about, the people who are specifically educated in coaching, but they don't have a ton of practical knowledge, or they aren't very strong, because I think that's a very in-depth topic that we could get into as well. And ultimately, there's somewhere in between. And as a lifter for you, so if I were to be looking for a coach, you have to be very selective as far as, who are you going to follow? Whose advice are you going to follow? And for what reasons do you trust this person? So that's why looking for a coach is kind of this multi-dimensional process that shouldn't be taken lightly. And just understand that in our social media and fitness influencer age that we are in right now, the marketing is geared towards people who do not think the decision through very well to choose their coach, because it's very easy for a strong lifter to just say, hey, I'm strong, look at me, I must know what I'm talking about. Why don't you hire me as a coach? And then the opposite's true. It's very easy for a educated person who has very little lifting experience to also promote themselves as a coach. And ultimately, the best coach is probably going to lie somewhere in between. And if it were me, it's you're trying to choose odds here, right? You're trying to find the best odds that you can find the best coach to fit your needs. And in my opinion, if you were to choose at random, right, you're better off picking someone who has a lot of experience in the gym and is very strong than someone who has very little experience and just pure higher level education, scientific, if you will, background as far as strength training, because you're going to be able to relate most likely to the person who has put in the hard time in the gym. So I know that was a lot of kind of like back and forth, and that's for good reason, because there is no perfect cookie cutter mold for a coach and what you need to look for in your coach. I'm just hoping to provide some perspective on maybe what you should look out for, why these really strong lifters can make great coaches. And in my opinion, a lot of that is time in the gym, trial and error. Someone who's been in the gym for a long time is going to have gone through all of the hard times and be able to relate to that. And then also there's the other side to it where you may run into someone who's just very genetically gifted and they haven't put a whole lot of thought in their training. Okay, so let me know down below, what do you think about this whole process? What do you look for in your own coach? I appreciate your time as always. Thanks for listening, and until next time, happy lifting.